For over 1,000 years, Rome was the superpower. It spanned 5 million square kilometers, reaching its peak in 117 CE. This vast size, however, became its greatest vulnerability. By the late 3rd century, chaos erupted, known as the crisis. Emperors were quickly overthrown by the army, and hyperinflation shattered the economy. Devastating plagues also swept across the population, killing millions. To salvage the struggling empire, Emperor Diocletian made a drastic choice. He believed the empire was simply too immense for one ruler. So, in 285 CE, he divided it into two distinct halves. There was the Latin-speaking West, governed from Milan, and the East. The East, richer and Greek-speaking, was ruled from Byzantium, later Constantinople. This division extended the empire's life by another century. However, it also fostered a widening rift between the two regions. The West, with older farms and a land-based economy, started to decline. In contrast, the East thrived as a trade hub, its cities and treasury flourishing. Gradually, they evolved into two separate entities. Over time, the Western Empire's downfall began to quicken. Its economy fell into a detrimental cycle of decline. It maintained long borders requiring a substantial army, necessitating high taxes. These heavy taxes impoverished farmers and laborers, reducing the tax revenue. Alongside its weakened economy, the famed Roman legions underwent a transformation. The empire increasingly depended on Germanic mercenaries known as foederati. While skilled warriors, their primary loyalty was to their own chieftains. Adding to these internal struggles, the empire faced a dire external menace. Around 370 CE, nomadic horse warriors from Central Asia, the Huns, started advancing west. Their fearsome presence and exceptional speed instilled panic among Germanic tribes. These tribes, residing north of the Danube, were pushed towards the Roman border. In 376 CE, a large contingent of Goths, fleeing the Huns, reached the Danube River. This river served as the frontier of the Roman Empire. They pleaded for refuge and authorization to cross into Roman territory. The Eastern Emperor, Valens, granted their request. He envisioned settling them on vacant lands and recruiting them into his forces. But this strategy unraveled disastrously. Unscrupulous Roman officials like Count Lupicinus and Commander Maximus exploited the Goths. They charged exorbitant prices for essential goods and demanded Goth children as slaves. This inhumane treatment proved to be a critical misjudgment. Eventually, the Goths rose in rebellion against their oppressors. For 2 years, they pillaged the Balkan provinces of the Roman Empire. They ravaged the regions now known as Bulgaria and Serbia. The situation escalated dramatically by August 378 CE at the Battle of Adrianople. Emperor Valens, eager for a swift victory, attacked the Gothic forces prematurely. He launched his assault before reinforcements from the west could arrive. The outcome was a devastating catastrophe for the Roman army. The Roman infantry was encircled and completely overwhelmed by Gothic cavalry. Emperor Valens perished in the battle, his remains never discovered. This loss was the most severe Rome had endured in centuries. It irrevocably shattered the perception of Roman invincibility. Following this engagement, the empire's borders became vulnerable. The Goths began infiltrating and consolidating their influence within the empire. Over the subsequent 30 years, their power and defiance grew significantly. Their most notable leader was Alaric, a Visigoth king who had previously served Rome. Alaric and his people sought a permanent homeland and lasting security. For years, he engaged in negotiations with the Western Roman Emperor Honorius. Honorius was headquartered in the capital city of Ravenna at that time. Alaric's requests were clear and direct. He desired land for his people to settle in the Balkans and a high Roman military title. However, Emperor Honorius consistently rejected his proposals. Consequently, Alaric led his army from their Balkan territories toward Rome. In 410 CE, they finally reached the ancient walls of the city of Rome. They breached the defenses and plundered the city for 3 days. The entire world reacted with profound astonishment at this event. For the first time in 8 centuries, Rome had fallen to an enemy force. The sack of Rome sent shockwaves across the known world. Nevertheless, the Western Roman Empire did not cease to exist immediately. It underwent a prolonged and arduous period of decline for the next 66 years. The empire's financial resources originated from its provinces. Gradually, these vital territories were lost one after another. The Roman army withdrew its forces from Britain. Spain and Gaul were subsequently conquered by various Germanic kingdoms. The most damaging blow occurred when the Vandals seized North Africa. This region was the empire's most prosperous source of grain. Meanwhile, the emperors in Ravenna became mere figureheads. Actual authority resided with Germanic generals within the Roman army. These generals appointed and dismissed emperors according to their own will. The empire was reduced to an empty shell, lacking funds, a dependable army, and territory beyond Italy. This weakened shell of an empire persisted precariously for years. Its ultimate end began not with a major conflict, but with a demand for payment. The emperor's father, a general named Orestes, had made a promise. He had pledged land in Italy to the diverse Germanic soldiers within the Roman army. However, he failed to honor this commitment to them. This failure incited anger among the soldiers, leading them to revolt. They elected Odoacer, a capable and ambitious Germanic general, as their new leader. In 476 CE, with approximately 10,000 soldiers, he advanced from Pannonia into Italy. Odoacer transformed their simmering discontent into a decisive uprising. He defeated and killed Orestes in a battle near Pavia. Subsequently, he laid siege to Ravenna, the capital city. The city surrendered with little resistance. Odoacer took control of the young emperor, Romulus Augustulus. He chose not to harm the boy, recognizing his youth and status as a puppet. Odoacer spared his life and exiled him to a castle in Campania. The general then performed the most symbolic act of all. He gathered the imperial crown and ceremonial robes. These items were then dispatched to Emperor Zeno in Constantinople. His message conveyed a clear and simple statement. The Roman world required only one emperor, located in the east. A separate emperor in the west was no longer necessary. With this action, the Western Roman Empire officially concluded its existence. In contrast to the West, the Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire, endured. Its capital, Constantinople, was a heavily fortified city protected by formidable walls. Its economy, supported by a reliable gold currency, remained robust. Persians ultimately pursued peace talks. The conflict concluded in 628 CE, with the Romans regaining all their lost lands. However, this victory came at a steep price. Both major powers were left financially depleted and militarily worn out. The war against the Sassanid Empire had ended, but a new formidable power was rising: the Muslims. The recently formed Muslim Caliphate, united by Islam, swiftly seized control of the entire Arabian Peninsula. Subsequently, during the 600s, they launched nearly simultaneous assaults against both weakened empires. The initial devastating strike targeted the Persians. At the Battle of Al-Qadisiyah in 636 CE, a Muslim army of approximately 30,000 confronted 50,000 Persian soldiers. The Muslims secured a remarkable triumph, clearing the path to their magnificent capital, Ctesiphon. This grand city fell just 1 year later. Mere months afterward, the Muslims redirected their focus toward the Romans. Their inaugural significant engagement occurred at Yarmouk in 636 CE. A significantly outnumbered Muslim contingent, around 25,000 combatants, faced a Roman legion estimated to consist of 40,000 troops. Over the course of 6 days, employing agile and clever battlefield strategies, the smaller Muslim force managed to surround and completely destroy the larger Roman army. This critical win paved the way for the subsequent capture of Syria and Palestine. Concurrently, on the Eastern Front, the Muslim success at Al-Qadisiyah and the subsequent seizure of the Persian capital, Ctesiphon, had effectively shattered the Sassanid Empire's strength. With the Persian front now stabilized, the Muslims concentrated their entire effort on the prosperous province of Egypt, the vital food source for the Eastern Roman Empire. In 639 CE, a Muslim contingent of merely 4,000 soldiers, under the command of the skilled General Amr ibn al-Ez, crossed the border from Palestine. This small, highly mobile unit overcame the larger, more stationary Byzantine garrisons. They achieved a crucial victory at the Battle of Heliopolis in 640 CE, decimating the main Byzantine field army in Egypt, which likely numbered over 20,000. Following this triumph at Heliopolis, they advanced towards the fortress of Babylon. This stronghold eventually surrendered after an extended siege in 641 CE. As the conquest of Egypt progressed, the Persian Empire launched one final, desperate effort to resist the caliphate. During the summer of 642 CE, the two armies engaged at the Battle of Nahevand, famously known as the Victory of Victories. In this engagement, a Muslim force of approximately 30,000 warriors triumphed over a Persian army of around 60,000 combatants. This defeat proved so absolute that the ancient Sassanid Empire, once a rival to Rome, collapsed entirely and vanished. Simultaneously, back in Egypt, the Muslim army had commenced a siege of Alexandria, the capital of the Roman province. This city finally capitulated in 642 CE. With its fall, the entirety of Egypt came firmly under Muslim dominion. Within less than a single generation, the Eastern Roman Empire had forfeited its most valuable provinces: Syria, Palestine, Egypt, and North Africa. The empire had lost its former grandeur but continued to endure for a period. Then, in 1071 CE, a new threat emerged from the east: the Seljuk Turks. The Seljuks had established a powerful, well-organized realm that had already subjugated much of the Middle East. They sought to extend their dominion further westward, initiating their conflict with the Eastern Roman Empire. The two sides clashed at the Battle of Manzikert in 1071 CE. In this disastrous defeat, not only was the Roman army annihilated, but the emperor, Romanos IV Diogenes, was also taken captive. The battle shattered the empire's primary defensive force, allowing Turkish tribes to flood into Anatolia. The loss of this vital region represented a devastating and irreversible blow. Anatolia had served as the empire's main provider of sustenance, soldiers, and fiscal income. Its subjugation by the Seljuks meant the empire was cut off from the essential resources required for survival, a loss from which it would never truly recover. In addition to these external pressures, the empire endured a devastating betrayal from within its own ranks. In 1204 CE, an army of Western European knights, known as the Fourth Crusade, had been financed by wealthy Venetian merchants to travel to Egypt and combat Muslims. However, the Crusaders were unable to compensate the Venetians for the use of their fleet. Seizing this opportunity, the Venetian Doge Enrico Dandolo schemed to redirect the crusade towards Constantinople. The objective was to resolve a political conflict over the imperial throne and settle the debt through plunder. Instead of engaging Muslims, the Crusaders turned against the Christian city of Constantinople itself. They brutally sacked the city for 3 days, desecrating sacred sites, destroying priceless ancient artifacts, and fragmenting the empire into small Crusader territories. Although the Romans eventually recaptured their capital in 1261, the empire was now a critically weakened remnant, stripped of its wealth and permanently divided. For the subsequent 2 centuries, the empire persisted, but its former strength had vanished. By the mid-15th century, it had diminished to little more than the city of Constantinople and a small area of modern Greece. It was in its final moments, a small Christian enclave amidst a rising Ottoman sea, awaiting the ultimate blow. By 1453, the young and brilliant Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II, who had long desired the magnificent city, prepared to seize his prize. He arrived with a formidable army exceeding 80,000 soldiers, equipped with the world's most advanced cannons, resolved to make Constantinople his new capital. The city found itself surrounded. The Roman defenders, led by the last Roman emperor, Constantine XI, numbered a mere 7,000. For 53 days, they fought with resolute bravery against the overwhelmingly superior enemy force. The final assault commenced just before dawn on May 29, 1453. The exhausted defenders were ultimately overcome. As the elite Ottoman janissaries breached the gates, Emperor Constantine recognized that the end was imminent. It is said he declared, "The city has fallen, yet I remain alive." He then discarded his imperial attire, unsheathed his sword, and charged into the ranks of the enemy. Disappearing into history, his remains were never recovered. The final Roman emperor met his end as he had lived, defending Rome until his last breath. And with his passing, the Roman Empire, once the undisputed global superpower, ceased to exist on Earth. An army exceeding 80,000 troops and the most powerful cannons ever developed, resolved to establish Constantinople as his new capital. The city found itself encircled. Its defenders, under the command of the final Roman emperor, Constantine XI, were a mere 7,000. For 53 days, they battled with fierce bravery against the immense enemy numbers. The decisive attack commenced just before sunrise on May 29, 1453. The weary defenders were completely outnumbered. When the elite Ottoman janissaries breached the gates, Emperor Constantine understood that the situation was hopeless. He reportedly stated, "This city has fallen, yet I remain alive." He then discarded his imperial attire, unsheathed his sword, and charged directly into the enemy ranks. He disappeared into history, his remains never recovered. The final Roman emperor met his end as he had lived, safeguarding Rome until his very last moment. And following his demise, the Roman Empire, once the world's undisputed dominant force, ceased to exist.